right, it's 5 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. John? Here. Munoz?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Vanetta?
Yes.
Wall? Here. Okay, so, is there any additions to the agenda? I have one, under unfinished business. There should be, negotiations. And then we're gonna move that, Blue Sox under new business and the Mustang boosters to, the recognition of audience. Is there anything else? Okay, so, I'll look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 9th.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Johns?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Vanetta?
Yes.
Wall? Yes. Okay, then recognition of audience. Let's start with the Surrey Blue Sox. All right.
Troy, you can use the microphone.
Okay.
Do you want to come with you, Troy?
Please.
We are part of the board members of the new, well, not new, but taking over for Munoz and Feathers for the Blue Sox. We're trying to keep the program going, and we're hoping we can continue with the bus services agreements that you guys have with them in the past. And if there's anything that you need us to change, or we are willing to do whatever you need from us to keep it going. And we're hoping for the bus services for our away games.
Sure. So, in prior years, I think we had a contract. What was that arrangement? Did we do one oil change?
Yes, we can look at the contract, but yeah, it'd be an oil change. They would have to fuel up the buses. You'd provide a driver for both the 14 passenger and regular size bus that have the credentials.
Yep.
And then, I think the only other thing was, it's been a few years now, but we at one point had an issue with, problems on the bus and like what happened, you know, what was wrong with the bus before as compared to after. So we'll just want to make sure we do a thorough walkthrough before documenting anything that might be wrong with the bus beforehand, and then you guys would agree to that, you know, just kind of, we both walk through at the same time, make sure we're.
We even said that someone on the board can be there, every time that we do that, if you wanna walk through, so that we can do walkthrough of inside the bus while the driver does their check. We're willing to do that as well, just so that we don't.
Before and after picture.
Yep.
Oh, sure, yeah, I don't think we use those buses in the summer, right?
No, they'll be dedicated to certain.
So we would, and I think before it was our head of maintenance that did it.
Yes.
So we had a new head of maintenance, but he would do the walkthrough with you beforehand, and then again and afterwards.
At the end of the season.
Yeah, at the end of the season.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Otherwise, I'm all for this.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to change it.
Yeah.
And we just have to get that contract drawn up and signed again, so.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you for supporting our youth. I mean, we love to have activities here for them, so wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You want a motion for that, Nicole?
Well, we don't have a contract, I don't think, so.
Motion to approve.
Or you'd have to prove that at the beginning of the board meeting.
I
I
can
think
bring
that's,
it next.
yeah, we'll have a contract, John, of the next board meeting, if that's okay with you? Okay.
I think I have, unless you have one too, Mr. Green.
I should have.
I was gonna say I have mine saved too, so.
Okay. All right, so then we have Mustang boosters on the agenda next.
I'm just gonna read this, it's probably easiest. The Surrey Mustang Booster Club would like the Surrey School Board to vote in favor of the Booster Club removing their funds out of the school's possession and into their own bank account. The Surrey Mustang Booster Club has officially become their own nonprofit corporation by filing with the North Dakota Secretary of State as of December 13th, 2021. Attached is a copy of the filing along with our tax identification number and our application for the 501c tax exemption, which you all have copies of, I believe. You should have, we emailed them to you. We have opened our own bank account under this corporation. All 4 of the Booster Club officials are on this account. Currently, all purchases are ran through the Surrey Schools business manager, sometimes directly paid by her or by reimbursing one of the booster members. All fundraising money is also handled by the business manager. The Booster Club would like to take full control over managing the boosters' finances. This would result in knowing real-time account balances, giving us the ability to access reports faster, and there would be less chances of human error. This has been a conversation in the Surrey Booster Club for many years due to multiple reasons. For example, in the past, members have had to wait up to 3 weeks before they were given reimbursement for approved purchases. Money has been missing from our account, and it took months before it was resolved. We have had to request copies of reports multiple times before they were given to us. We have experienced resistance and questioning of our purchases, even though it was voted on and approved by the booster members. Our fund was used to pay for school activities and then paid back. The annual scholarships have been distributed a month after school started. Yeah, of that next year. The Booster Club and its funds are talked about publicly to the school staff. In closing, the Surrey Mustang Booster Club would like the school board to highly consider voting yes for the Booster Club taking full control of their funds and for the Surrey School Business Manager to cut a check written to Surrey Mustang Booster Club for the entire balance of the account as soon as possible. The Surrey Mustang Booster Club has always made every effort in helping the school by fundraising and helping support the students, faculty, and all student activities and organizations, and will continue to do so. Thank you.
So I know there were some concerns about this. Ms. Ganser did some research on this, and one of the things she had asked for was, or that was recommended to her was there any policies regarding this? So I did look. We don't have a policy directly talking about what we need, how to deal with it after it's been after we have had control of it. But we do have a policy about, this is policy HBCC, fundraising by non-school sponsored groups. And in this policy it says, non-school sponsored groups include but are not limited to booster groups, the PTO/PTA, and other parent groups. These groups are required to obtain their own tax identification number and manage and account for all monies raised. No employee of the district is authorized to sign any checks on behalf of this non-school sponsored group. The district disclaims any of its liability for non-school sponsored group activities. So in looking at that, to me it seems like we've been doing it wrong all along.
Because our money too is in what the athletic fund is what we were told. It's not athletic fund money.
No, it's in a fund, activity fund.
Oh, that's what I meant, activity fund.
Yeah. And so that's just a way of accounting for it, so that it's not general money, like in a fund with general money that can be spent however we deem appropriate. And also, I guess, to me, I just don't see why this is worth a fight. I appreciate the boosters, and I will have to say, I will not be voting on this issue, because I am a member of the Mustang Boosters. But I'm a member of the Mustang Boosters because I appreciate all that they do. And I think that they work very hard to support the school. I don't know that this is worth a fight. But that's all I will say about the issue.
I guess the only concern I had, and it appears that everything was answered in your email, but I just want to make sure that if this is the direction we go, which according to the policy, it seems like it should have been done this way the whole time, I just want to make sure that everything's just done legally. That's my concern, so.
Yep,
Actually, the bank requires us to do all those things, so
Okay.
we made sure we did everything. The only thing we don't have yet is our 501c tax status. We've applied for it back in December, but we haven't gotten that number yet. So that's the only thing we're waiting on. Otherwise, we have the bank account. All 4 of us officers are on it. And I present the members with the bank statement every month, like I do now with the booster reports.
Okay. Thank you.
I see no problem with it at all. I would like to make a motion for the Surrey Mustang Booster Club to, for all the funds to be transferred to the Surrey Mustang Booster Club.
Second it.
Johns,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta,
Yes.
Wall.
Abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so do we have any other audience members who would wish to address the board? Okay, then, yeah, I know, it's kind of, well, I'm going to faculty representative and then student representative, because first we do recognition of audience and then faculty. So is there faculty? Well, we're right there, Chris, just hold on 1 second. Is there faculty who would like to address the board? All right, then we'll move to students.
Okay, so I'm coming back to the board today to finally get back about our senior trip and approval we would need for that. After the last board meeting, I know the things the board requested were validated class vote, an itemized budget, and chaperones down in writing. Following the board meeting, back in, I think that was January at this point, we had a class vote and we ended with an exact 15-15 split, which raised a lot of issues in our class. It took us a while to get out of that little slump. What we ended up going with is working with our class leadership and Mrs. Richards' help, and we ended up agreeing that the thing that represented our class the most, even though it's not exactly traditional, is to agree to disagree. So we decided the best course moving forward would be 2 senior trips separately, in which the money would be fairly distributed between, and which students could choose where they wanted to go rather than being forced on an option they weren't happy with. So the 2 options that were raised is one option that is staying in-state, that's going to Fargo here the next couple weeks, and then the other option is a continuation of the Seattle trip. So that's what I've come to present to you today. I believe you should all have copies of our basic outline, as well as an itinerary and an itemized budget. So, starting at the top of this outline, this trip obviously is to Seattle. Our dates have been moved to after the school year, so they would be Wednesday, June 1st, which is the Wednesday immediately after graduation Sunday, through approximately Sunday, June 5th. Now those dates, we're waiting a little bit to make sure all of our chaperones have absolutely no issues and all of our boxes are checked, but those dates are what we're working with currently. As far as how many we go, we have 17 students down right now out of the 30 who have put their names down for Seattle. So with that, we also plan to take 3 chaperones, just to be safe, because I know that was an issue that was raised last time, was making sure we had all of the chaperones we need, everybody was safe, everybody was accounted for, and there was no blank spaces. So that gives us a student-to-teacher ratio of 5.7 to 1, which I felt like I talked with Mr. Girding a while back, and he suggested 6 to 7 to 1 as far as a student-to-teacher ratio. So this goes a little bit above and beyond that, which we felt like where we're going, that was something that would really help us. As far as transportation, we would still be taking the Amtrak, which is definitely a long train ride, but all of the students who put their names down are aware of this, are in agreement with this, and have decided that they are comfortable taking those steps and going through that in exchange for the location they'd be going to. So as far as the hotel, our hotel choices have changed a little bit. We're still gonna be in downtown Seattle. We're now on the edges of downtown Seattle rather than the heart of downtown Seattle. We decided we're going with suites as far as rooms, which gives us the ability to fit more students per room and have less rooms total, which help drop our costs a little bit. So we'd have 5 suites. One suite would be dedicated to purely chaperones. Another suite would be purely the girls because we don't have a lot of them going. And then we'd have 3 more suites that would be just male students. That hotel, it would leave us in close proximity to train bus stations, which is how we're getting around. So once we're in Seattle, that's our big mode of transportation, is public transportation. Seattle has a great public transportation network that we plan to take advantage of. Full day passes for that aren't too expensive, so that's how we're doing that, is we're getting full day passes for all of the days we're there. And then as far as once we're in Seattle, what we're actually doing, we wanted to try and focus on as much educational activity as we can while we're there. So we have 3 separate museums, a gold rush museum, a pop culture museum, and then a glass museum. And then beyond that, we obviously have the Space Needle. Nobody can go to Seattle without seeing the Space Needle. We also have Pike's Place Market and an aquarium, along with a swimming recreation center, a harbor tour, and then lots of public parks, beaches, etc. As Seattle is really rich in a lot of outdoor environments, even while you're in the city. So that was something we plan on taking advantage of. Now, the big last few things are cost and COVID. Cost, we're looking at just under $9,000 right now for the 20 people we would be taking. That would be, we've already set aside $1,000 for graduation. And after discussing heavily with the other section of the class, including Mrs. Richards, and figuring out how we want to split the money, we would have about $9,000 to put towards both trips. Towards Seattle directly, we would only have to raise another $1,420. The breakdown on all of that is on the very back of your packets. That has all of the specific financial details, including a breakdown of what costs how much we're looking at per student, and how much we have available and left to raise. So I'll give you a minute to look over that before I keep going.
Chris, just a minute. So it was $9,000 you have raised total, right?
Yes.
Okay,
both
and
trips.
it was a Seattle trip is $9,000.
On itself, yes.
So the Seattle trip is giving $7,500 and the other trip is getting $1,500?
Yes, now that split, I know it seems really, really uneven, and the reason for that is because, one, out of our 30 people class, we had 4 students who decided to not go on any trip, which leaves us with a split of 26 students. Now beyond that, we have, I believe it's 17 and 9, which gives us almost a 2-to-1 ratio of students going to Seattle versus students going to the in-state option. Additionally, we have sponsors who have donated to our class specifically for certain trips. So we wanted to make sure we were honoring those businesses' wishes and sending all of those funds directly towards those trips. And then we took the remaining sum, divvied it into 26 shares, and split all of those shares, one to each student, that they would then take on their trip.
Sure. So that was like a lot of money.
Good job, Chris.
So is the other group okay with that?
Yeah, I've talked, they're working heavily with Mrs. Richards. They're taking advantage of her as a great resource to help plan their trip. And I've worked really extensively with her, making sure we're both on the same page, in agreement with everything. I made sure she's got a copy of all of this. We've gone through, worked through all the numbers, everything in our class account, highlighted what needs to go where, and we are on the same page with this.
You can continue, I'm sorry, I just had to,
That's all
before I
right.
forgot that.
And then in regards to COVID, I know that was a big concern last time, and I'm happy to say that since then, we've had a lot of things open up. From 2 months ago to now, there have been huge changes in Seattle's policies in relation to COVID. The biggest change is that Seattle has completely lifted their vaccine and testing requirements. So we would not have to be tested, we would not have to be vaccinated, which removes a lot of stress and concern from a lot of parents and a lot of students. And then additionally, starting the 12th of this month, Seattle is changing their mask mandate, which would mean masks are no longer required in most restaurants, public places, etc. They're only required in hospitals, medical facilities, those type of places. So the only other place then that we would really face COVID restrictions is the Amtrak. I know that was one reason we had students not want to go on this trip, is having to wear a mask on the whole Amtrak trip. And now Amtrak hasn't officially changed their mask policy. They still do require masks. However, Amtrak traditionally closely follows the TSA's lead on COVID policies, et cetera, and the TSA is setting March 18th as their date to remove their mask mandate on national flights. So it would only be fair to expect Amtrak to follow a similar policy in the coming weeks and months. We have quite a few student expectations, which were a big thing. Going to such a large destination that's so far away, we felt like there was a lot that had to be expected of students, and they needed to understand that, we needed to understand that, everybody needed to be on the same page. So the last section is a list of student expectations, what they're going to be responsible for, and what we're expecting from them. Every student, right now, we're planning for a $50 fee to go with, which is just to help cover a lot of our costs. That's the baseline. We don't want to go above that, which is why we still have $1,400 to raise, because we were really big about wanting to make sure anybody who wanted to go could afford to go. So the only fees to students are going to be that $50 plus whatever meals they decide on, because we know anywhere you go, there's a lot of fluctuation in meal prices, so that allows students to eat to their budget rather than to the class's budget. Obviously, wearing a mask when required is going to be necessary. Acting in a respectful manner that represents the school in public and in private places. So that includes when we're in attractions and when we're in the hotel, in the privacy of our rooms. Not being destructive, not being disruptive, all of those things. And then respecting and following instructions of any and all chaperones. That was a really big thing for me, because I don't want to have to deal with students not respecting the authority figures. I've seen that enough in our school as is. So that's a really big point I want to push with anybody who goes, is that chaperones rule is pretty much the law. I don't want to have to deal with any disrespect, any talk back, any fighting about who they should listen to, if they should listen, et cetera, et cetera. So following last year's class trip, their plan, our stance towards following rules, following these expectations is that any students who choose not to follow the expectations will be responsible for finding their own way home. That, it seems really strict, but that was the policy last year's class trip used, so just to follow the precedent, that's what we felt like was best. The last full page is just an itinerary for you guys to look over that outlines when we leave, what we do, all of that. If there's any questions, please ask.
Who are the chaperones?
The current chaperones, I have written confirmation from Mrs. Ballmer, as well as a parent, Kelly Ng. I've also got verbal confirmation, I have verbal confirmation with written confirmation pending from Ms. Munoz.
I signed it, it's at home on the table, sorry.
Okay, awesome.
Patty and Mark are supposed to bring it.
Okay, so you have the chaperones. Yep, okay, perfect. And then you guys aren't sure about those dates yet?
Those safe dates, if they flex, it would pretty much be 1 or 2 days, one way or the other. We want to be back no later than Monday, June 5th, because we know baseball, Blue Sox starts really early in the summer, and we've got a few students who are on that team. So just to allow them the most time for their summer, we are planning to be back before that Monday. So that leaves our full window at the Monday immediately following graduation through the following Sunday.
I know you said a couple of the kids didn't choose this trip because of having to wear a mask. If they drop the mask on the train, can those kids change their mind? And if they do, like, then do you have to refigure out the funds?
If they were to change their minds at this point, I would definitely be trying to work with everybody. Right now, by the end of the week, we would need to have signatures down who's going where. If they were to change, it would put a slight variation in our funds. However, looking at who is going where, I don't see a lot of potential for fluctuation. Everybody who is going is pretty set in what they want. So at most, I could see one, maybe two students switching to the Seattle trip, which would at most raise our total cost of fundraise to $1,750 to $2,000. That would be the absolute most fluctuation I could see, realistically.
I see the cost per person for the Amtrak tickets is $182. Does that account for the return trip?
Yes, that does account for the
So
return.
round trip is $182.
Yes, we're taking advantage of one of Amtrak's group discounts, which is the share fares plan, which allows by buying tickets in groups of 6. The first ticket is full price. The second ticket is 15% off. Third is 40% off. Fourth is 60, and the last two are both 70% off. So that allows us an average savings per student of around 45% off those tickets.
The only question I have is, the cost of the in-state trip. Do they have enough to at least equal what you guys are going to have to do as far as, like buying their own meals, or, I mean, covering the cost of the trip and then?
Last I checked, I'm not 100% certain on the number about what their trip costs, so I want to give you something that's not totally accurate. I did talk to Mrs. Richards, and it was somewhere in the low $4,000 range. So, and that was including a meal cost. So after their meal cost, they would have less than $1,000 differential between what they'd have and what they need. And I mean, if they are really in need of money, because I know their trip is in a very short time frame, if they want to work with us and then say we had to help them now and they had to fundraise back the money, I'm really willing to be flexible, because my big thing is I want everybody to enjoy some form of trip, and I want to take away their trip now just because we want all the money. So if we need to work with them, if they're struggling in some way, I'm willing to be flexible.
Well, and I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you, Chris, and Mrs. Richard. I don't think she's here, but I know I talked to her personally after our last meeting, and she kind of cleared some things up for me, that there was some misunderstanding and kind of a few things misinterpreted. But I think you two have done a great job working closely together, and I think that's wonderful. I will also say that I'm a little sad as a parent to not see you guys take this trip as a class. Breaks my heart a little bit. It's the last thing you guys would have probably done together as a class other than graduate. But I will also say and commend you, great job for working together and with your class and coming up with a compromise that seems to work for everybody. So good job.
Thank you.
So with that, is there, I mean, I have two questions. One, do we need to approve it if it is if they're leaving after graduation? We went into this situation a few years ago. I don't see a policy
I don't know
on
if we
it.
need to approve the trip, but maybe approve the funds.
Okay.
Or-
So approve the fund. And then, if I was not accepting you. I was accepting the other group, because they're leaving.
But they don't need
They're
approval for
in-state. Oh, they don't
in-state
need
trip.
approval for in-state trip. Okay, that's great.
And they don't really need it because they're after graduation, so
Right.
all of their students is Surrey.
So, I think that answers my question right now. So can we approve it if we don't have the exact dates, or do we need to wait until we have?
For the funds.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have.
I think it's basically approving the use of their class funds,
Yeah.
so I think,
So I guess, okay. So, is there a motion to,
Yes, I'll make the comment just that since we're not approving the trip itself, it's really just about them access to the funds. So maybe we can just be generic about it. They can handle it. I think.
so
I'll
I'll
make-
make a motion
I'll make the motion.
to,
I'll make the motion to approve the senior class, their funds to use for their trip.
I'll second it.
Johns,
Yes.
Munoz,
I'm going to abstain.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta,
Yes.
Wall,
yes. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Is there any other students who would like to address the audience? Okay, then we can move to superintendent.
Well, I'm happy to let you know that we applied for another bus grant and we did get it for $20,000. And I do have Chuck here to explain a few things and give you an update on a 14-passenger bus and what the vision committee was thinking. So Chuck, it's all yours.
So I'll start with the 14-passenger bus. We had previously approved the $30,000 purchase of a bus that Hartley's and Rugby had, and unfortunately that deal is not gonna happen. The whole circumstance behind that, I'm not 100% clear on, but it seems that there was some miscommunication and sold to another customer, so we are not going to be purchasing that particular 14-passenger bus. So the previous bus grant was a percentage basis of purchase price, and I think we're gonna be reimbursed around $18,000. So that was through the state of North Dakota. We applied for another grant through the EPA, through the Dura program, and we received a $20,000 grant towards the purchase of it has to be a 17 engine model or newer, so basically 2019 or newer. And I know we talked in vision committee about, I have those numbers kind of mixed around a little bit. I thought we could buy a 17 model year, but it's actually 17 engine model year. So anyway, so we originally thought we were going to be in the $50,000 price range, and I think you have a quote in your packet for a bus that I located with the same dealership that we bought our 2020 from for the cost of $67,500. That would include, there's a few things that we have to do to get that bus up to North Dakota standards. So that's where we're at. So, and really just to kind of give you just a brief summary of where we're at with the fleet in general, we have 2 route buses, a 2010 bus 4, a 2010 with 130,000+ miles on it, and bus 2, a 2011 with about the same, right in that 130,000 mile range. When in the past, when I've consulted with schools about what their bus fleet looks like, in general, we kind of always targeted 10 years. Our oldest bus would be 10 years old. So we're certainly into the last years of those route buses. Now that 2020 will be put on route next year. Part of the grants that we've received, those buses have to go on a route. So we're going to be using the 2020 probably to replace bus 2. So if we were to move forward with the Dura grant, we would replace bus 4. So we also have the 2013 with 59,000 miles on it, that's bus 1, and bus 7, which is our primary activity bus, which is a 15 with 43,000 miles on it. And we also have that one more, that Medrose bus that we acquired last year that's going to be used for, it's a matter of fact, we had to pull it out once this year as a backup, but kind of we'll use that for some local sports and as a backup.
So I missed the first 2. I have the 2013, which is number 1, and the 2015, which is number 7, and then the Nedros bus, which we don't have a number 2 yet, but what were the other 2?
The bus number 4 is a 2010, with 130, I think it's 137,000 miles on it. And then bus 2 is a 2011 with about the same, 130, I think it was 136 today.
Said 4, and then was the other one? And then it was 2.
1, 2, 4, and
1, 2.
7.
Okay. So,
That Nedros bus is an 08, but that was, it's really a spare. We use that bus for cross country because Mr. Wallach liked it.
okay.
And that's number 1.
No.
That one we haven't really designated a
Oh,
number
okay.
yet. So the Nedros bus, the one we bought from Nedros or traded,
Okay, so what size are all these buses?
all 71 passenger, with the exception of the Nedros bus, I believe was a 59.
Okay.
No, and I'll correct myself there, bus 4 is a 65.
Oh.
So bus 4 is a 65, the Nedros bus is a 59, and the balance are 71 passenger.
Okay.
Which I'm an advocate for the bigger bus, because you just never know what your student populations, your routes are gonna look like. You can get 77s, but the seat spacing gets real tight, but I'm always advocate for buying a larger bus.
So
The bus that's proposed, or the quote in front of you is another 71.
So, we approved last time, how much money? I'm looking for it.
We paid 74.5, I believe, is that something?
Yeah, and I thought I saw a check for that. But I thought you said we couldn't get that bus.
No, the 15 passenger bus,
The 14 bus.
or the 14 passenger, the smaller, the little bus.
The little bus we can't get.
This is for the big bus.
So,
That we just purchased.
that we just purchased, is that in this list?
No, the two small ones are, no.
The one for
The bus we
74?
just purchased.
That we just bought a
2020.
bus.
The one that we just purchased, the 2020.
That's, so we
That is
just
not
didn't
in
have
that
it on
list.
the
We have not
2020.
designated, no, that we haven't even got it registered yet, but that is a 2020 with 15,000 miles on it. And that is also a 71 passenger.
Okay, 'cause we have a lot of buses and no bus drivers.
So we generally, kind of our thought process is you almost need a spare bus for every route bus. So we have 2 primary spare buses and 2 primary route buses. Those spare buses are also used for activities, and there are times when both those buses go out at the same time. So as far as the large bus fleet, and we regularly use the 2 14 passenger buses that we have. So if we looked at adding a 3rd route, we have 3 buses that we could designate for route buses, and then 2 spares.
So this would add another route,
This would add another route bus.
but we don't have any drivers.
And that's why we haven't been able to pursue the in-town route yet, is because
Right.
we don't have anybody coming in, and it's gonna get more challenging because the requirements for CDL licensing have changed.
Mhm.
It's a lot more complicated now, but we are actually set up to do that training here at school.
Mhm.
So if we can get somebody that's interested, we can provide training.
And the grant was for 10,000?
The grant is 20,000.
20,000, okay.
I thought last month when we approved the other bus, I thought that already was to add another route on.
So that gives us that ability. But we
And this
need
also
to,
add another
but we need to
route?
look real serious at replacing the 2 existing route buses. That's really the primary at this stage.
Say the buses 2 and 4, realistically, how much longer do you think that they could be on the road?
We potentially could get another year out of them, but they're really, they're one breakdown away from being cycled out of the system. If we had almost any emissions related failure, those repair costs can be $4,000 to $7,000 pretty quick. And we're at the point where those buses are there at the end of their cycle, and I don't think it would be money well spent.
So if we sell a bus then? I mean, if we sell a couple of buses, like, what is that going on?
So we would, if we did 3 routes, we would have to keep bus 1, bus 2, bus 4, bus 7, and then the new one that we just purchased. That would be our 5 bus fleet, 3 routes and 2 spare / activity buses, which is, and then we still have that backup Meadows one that we could potentially get by. That one,
Just to let you know, bus 2, since we bought it, we put over $32,000 in repairs into that bus already.
Bus 2?
Bus 2, yes, and that's on the route, and we are having issues right now with bus 2, and that number is not including a 1.5 years worth of repairs that we put into it, but it's a lot of money repairing that bus.
bus 2 potentially has a turbo issue right now, where I had it off the road for a day and kind of looked things over and didn't find anything obvious wrong, but it's starting to make some noise, that turbo is. So I mean, realistically, the 2 route buses that we're using now are, I mean, they're 2010 and 2011. We're on borrowed time.
So, can we combine these grants, because that last grant we got was gonna cover part of this? Can we combine this new grant to buy 1 bus for $67,500?
And so it'd be 20 off of that 67.5.
Well, what about the other?
The other one, we paid 70,
No,
74.5, and we're getting 8, whatever it was, 8, somewhere between 18 and 19,000.
What about the one we didn't get though, that we approved?
That one is the
Are you saying a 14-passenger bus?
Yes.
We would not get a 14-passenger bus. We've been looking high and low for a 14-passenger bus, and right now, a new 14-passenger bus is around $70,000.
65 to 70.
Yeah.
And there's just not much availability. Mr. Goering and I both been kind of looking, and we don't have options at this point.
So no.
Unless we bought a new. And I think that's probably not realistic.
So then we're back to really square, like, we're gonna net out about the same amount of cash we approved already, because, you know, this will be 47.5 then, and we approved 53 the last time. We're just, instead of getting 14, we're gonna get 71. Is that right?
You approved 30 for the 14, and we would spend a little more than that to get it.
Okay. But that was until we had a grant on that one. So we don't get the other grant.
The other one, we have to purchase a bus similar to this to get the grant.
Wasn't there 2 grants?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. The percentage grant, yeah, we already purchased that 2020.
That was 2020.
Yes,
Okay.
and then we did receive $20,000 for another
And then this is
grant
the new
for,
grant.
yes,
All right.
this is a new grant.
I was thinking the grant was for 14 passenger, yeah. Okay.
But that one's already approved, he's there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that we're netting really about the same, but it's gonna be after the grant, yeah, after.
So we're hopeful we get somebody to start that. I think the board has already indicated that they want the city route back, and the struggle there is finding that guy, that person to run that route. And we've put in place the ability to be able to train, so hopefully we do.
I have a couple things, just from the meeting and what you've said today, and I know this is very confusing, we maybe should have had some sort of spreadsheet. But, number one, in the past, like the vision committee, I'm glad that it's there, Mr. Girding is very glad that it's there, just because in the past, there hasn't been like a capital improvement layaway plan, so to speak, like on a 4-year cycle, possibly to purchase a new bus. Secondly, Mr. Girding has written these grants every year for the past, how many years, Mr. Girding?
Well, since I was the high school principal.
Okay, and has never received them, and this year he's received 2. So I don't think we can let them go to waste. Third, Chuck has saved us tons of money on maintenance in-house and time. And I know there was some concerns on the spreadsheets that we received from Tyler about spending this money, or Daniel, sorry, on buses, but I think we're trying to play catch-up now, and then in the future, we can plan accordingly and do like a capital equipment layaway plan for replacement.
And we spoke about that in Vision Committee, and Mr. Girding and I have had conversations about really evaluating what the fleet looks like and making a plan for replacements instead of, because really we're at that point where what I see, and obviously I've not been here a long time, but that's where we're at, we're playing catch up. Get the fleet up to where it's close to current, and I know even the 2020 that we bought, we went and kind of sought out a used bus and saved $25,000 on that purchase. A new bus is $100,000 now. So I feel like Mr. Girding's guidance has been to where try to maximize our investment, and then we're working on a plan to look at. And it really kind of depends on, does the city road happen? Hopefully it does, and that will give us a clearer picture of what our fleet should look like,
And I
and
think,
a replacement plan.
to me, that's the most important thing, is to get the city route back established.
This would put us in pretty good position to get that, I believe, to have the equipment to do that.
Then all we need is drive.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
Very
Mr. Girding,
voluntary.
for being persistent and continuing with these grants, and it makes a big difference, so thank you.
I also talked to Mr. Girding today, briefly before the meeting, and we just discussed because it is an extra $17,500 to purchase this bus, although it's bigger and newer, but we can attempt to ask for gaming funds as well from the two entities that we have in town to cover that deficit. Obviously, that's not for sure, but it would be a little bit to cover the cost. And if we wrote those requests to support the whole town and the cities, getting the city routes back going, I feel like we'd have a good chance of getting there.
Yeah, I think, that's a good point, but I don't want to, pass something contingent on funds that we haven't talked about, or haven't talked with anyone about. I would hate for it to go to waste, but then I just keep looking at this thinking, oh my gosh, you have so many buses. So I get it, I know that we use a lot of buses, but.
I really don't know if we have so many buses, because we really feel that bus 2 and bus 4, they're obsolete. They're one breakdown away from not being used ever again. And then what are we gonna do? So like you said, we're behind the 8 ball. I feel that just like when we were last year with the computers, lucky with Esser, we bought all new computers, but Mr. Borthy and I have a plan for the future on how to cycle out those computers so that we're not stuck with all of a sudden 100 computers to replace. Not just like the buses here. We need to get our fleet to where we need it, and then have a plan in the future when we need to rotate them. And eventually in the future, we might be able to sell a bus to help recover that cost.
Okay, sounds good.
And what fund is it coming out of?
Yeah,
Is it general fund?
Right now, I do have the replacement fund,
Yeah.
where we'd be a little bit short. However, there's a couple of options. I was talking to Chuck today, and maybe we can put money down for this budget cycle and pay for it on the next budget cycle. Or we can pay off the loan with this budget cycle, and then take out a loan for this bus for the next cycle. So there's options that we have.
Yeah, not the operating loan we have, you're talking about the loan we have on the bus?
Yes, the bus 1 or bus 7 loan that we have, we only have one bus loan right now. So we could pay off that and get a different loan.
Okay. get what you're saying, it's just, it's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, so really then what we're really saying is we're gonna spend $47,000 to be able to offer a in-town bus that we don't know if we have a driver. Right. Maybe.
Eventually, once you get the driver.
Once we get a driver.
And it's a difference of, what, 12, 13,000 more than what we approved
Right.
for the smaller one, I think.
Right.
Chuck, which ones did you say were the main buses used for routes?
2 and 4.
Oh, okay, and those are the ones
Those are the ones,
that,
the 2 highest ones.
that are ready to go at any time,
Yeah,
so.
we kind of intentionally keep the better buses for activities, because they're typically
Farther
out in the
away.
evening when it's not as easy that, if there's an issue to deal with.
Okay, perfect.
But like I said, our new purchases will have to go on routes as part of the grant.
Perfect, thank you.
Could bus 2 and 4 possibly, if we get a bus driver, be used as in-town buses because we wouldn't be doing as many miles?
Well, we wouldn't just strictly have a in-town route. We would have 3 out-of-town routes, and when they come in, pick up in city students, because we do not get reimbursed for in-town students, whereas we put out-of-town route, we can get reimbursed some.
And that's been a huge cost for
And
us.
so,
in the past.
right, and yeah, just having a city route alone would be a very huge cost to us. Whereas if we can add it to a route, it wouldn't be as much.
So I think we would integrate one of those buses into that 3rd route and then keep the other one for a spare. Or backup.
And like I said, you did approve the 30,000 for the 14 passenger, which we could use for this bus. Also, I did budget around $55,000 for bus repair for this year, and we only used $6,000. And typically, prior years, we'd use the whole $50,000 on all the repairs we had to do. But like I said, Chuck does a really good job repairing our vehicles when we need them, and we don't have to wait for them, and the huge cost going to the shop.
Any more discussion? Okay, then, is there a motion to approve purchase of the bus?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the funds. I guess we would $40,000 total with the grant.
I think we have to approve the
47.
67, we have to approve the 67.5, so we'll get reimbursed, right?
All right, well, I'll move to approve the 67.5 for the new bus.
I'll second.
Is that Jenny?
Yes.
Johns?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes,
Tyler?
Yes.
Vanetta?
Yes.
Wall?
Yes.
Okay, in front of you, I have the school calendar for the 22-23 school year. We had 3 calendars that the teachers voted on. 61% of them voted for calendar 1. And I would like your approval for calendar 1 as the 22-23 school calendar.
and I guess I just have one question on this. Did we, or anybody, just look over the dates and make sure that we didn't have like home games during parent-teacher conferences and that type of thing?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
We
perfect.
had one parent-teacher conferences, I think that we had a junior high game, which they would be done by 6, but I made sure that there was no varsity games.
Okay, just because I know the parking gets to be kind of.
Yes,
Okay.
that is,
Okay,
My own comments, and I'll say it again, I said the same thing last year, I hate starting August 17th, I think it's way too early. But I expressed that concern to Mr. Girding, and he's told me that the committee has felt like we need to start before the first football game, so.
The only thing I can see is on calendar 2, I loved having the 2 weeks off for Christmas break, and I think the kids enjoyed that too. I think option 1, they do have to go to school for the first 2 or 3 days of that week. But I mean, if the teachers approve it, I'm perfectly fine with it.
And just anecdotally, I've heard some feedback from people in the community just with the amount of time, just trying to childcare for the kids off, in particular, the spring break that we're having this year. There's some folks not pleased that it's so long. It seems pretty normal to me, but it looks like calendar 1 kind of addresses some of the community concerns. As far
Yeah, I
as-
heard it both ways though.
Yeah,
I
I have
heard
to-
what you
yeah.
said. I'm
That's
so glad we have a week
Yeah.
off and the other way, so.
Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, I'm one of the ones that think it's great. I mean, I got older kids.
I think it's nice to break the days up myself and just give everybody a break here and there, but mental health day, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's not about me, so.
I'll make a motion to approve calendar 1.
Seconded. Johns,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes,
Tyler,
Yes.
Banetta. Yes. Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, my next item is that I would really like you to consider going back to elementary principal and a high school principal instead of a K-12 principal and a dean of students. I know with Mr. Hopsworth retiring, I think this is a good opportunity to go back to having both an elementary principal and a high school principal.
I would support that just with some of the feedback we got in the cultural improvement committee. I think it probably, the span of control for one principal over the whole school is, it's a lot of people to manage at once, and then having one person in charge of all the student discipline. This is a lot of kids. So I think going back to 2 principals, makes sense in that regard. And I'll touch on it when we talk about the improvement committee too, but I think it's probably a good time to do that myself.
I agree. I think it served a really good purpose, and I think it served that purpose, and I think everybody did a phenomenal job in their positions, especially with it being so new, but I also agree that I think it would be best for our school to see 2 principals.
I agree, we still have to discuss though, I think we need to explain
Yeah,
the finance piece of that. And how that athletic director is going to fit in that.
High school principal maybe add $5,000 to $10,000 to my budget. What I'm concerned about is probably the athletic director. Depending on the candidates that we have for our high school principal, maybe we could tack that on. You know, high school principal / athletic director. However, if we do not have a candidate that's strong or could do both, I think that we would have to probably look at a part-time athletic director position. I just think that it's a position that's more time than just 1 period a day or 2 periods a day. It's a lot of work, and I would say if our candidates would not be able to do that, we would have to go to a part-time athletic director, which would cost us roughly $45,000 to the budget because of part-time would be around $20,000 to $25,000 plus the benefits would get you up to around $40,000.
So,
For a lady position, yes.
right, so I agree, I think that we'd be best served by having 2 principals again. I think that was spoke to in that survey. You have to keep that in mind that we're gonna spend up to another $55,000 next year. I think it happens every board meeting. So, do you think we can afford that?
I do, depending on the negotiations, and I've been, you know, yes, it depends on the negotiation, but if we put it in the budget right now, the negotiator would see this is what we need. And so, I think it's important to get it in right now so they know exactly where we're at, the budget.
And there's a potential if we have a strong candidate that could fill in with the athletic director position too, that wouldn't add cost. Is that an accurate statement?
Are you saying the high school principal?
Yeah.
You know, it depends on, you know, what candidates that we have. There's a lot of high school principals that are, athletic director as well.
I do, and maybe this might be an inappropriate question to ask, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Would you ever reach out to Coach K and ask him if he would come back and be the athletic director?
Absolutely, I'll take whoever would apply. So, and I talked to Coach K, he's a great guy. I did ask him if he would be interested in, if he would apply, and he did say yes. But we would welcome whoever would like that position to apply.
I think the best thing to do would be to advertise it as the high school principal / athletic director, just to see what feedback you would get first.
That's a good point. So is there a motion to approve and move back to 2 principals?
Yeah, I'll make that motion to do 2 principals.
I'll second.
Johns,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta. Yes. Walt.
Yes. Anything else?
Well, no, I'm just gonna let you know, I don't remember if I, let you know that we're gonna apply for a $100,000 fitness center here at the school. We're applying right now and we're making videos for it, but just wanted to let you know that we're looking at a few things.
Well, thank you.
Where would the fitness center go?
Up in the mezzanine, we'd,
Oh, just-
yeah, move some stuff around and get rid of some old stuff. And
Speaking of that, treadmills,
yes,
how are those going?
I'll just talk to Mr. Holtz and Mr. Mack. They're gonna try a different avenue because no one's calling them back or emailing them back. So, they're working on it and working on it hard. So hopefully we'll get more news next month.
All right.
Can I just give a quick accolade to Mr. Girding and who's ever else involved in that $100,000 grant? I was notified of it a week after it came out. So I immediately, of course, contacted Mr. Girding and he said, we're almost ready to submit. So it was fantastic to hear. It's very exciting.
Thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, business manager.
Nobody had any questions on the bills or the financial statements?
I didn't.
No. So is there a motion to approve the bills?
I'll move to approve the bills.
A second?
Johns,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta. Yes. Walt.
Yes.
Okay, I have, open enrollment number 112, or tuition agreement, I'm sorry, 112. Out.
Oh, sure.
Neither one of these that we're considering have been to this school, right? They're already out of school, is that correct?
Correct.
So it's just asking to do the status quo.
Well, this is a tuition agreement, right? So I think that we need to be cognizant that we will be probably seeing several of these come in the next bit because everyone that we have approved in prior years has to do it every year.
Yep, they have to be done every year.
And so all the ones that we have been approving in the past, going to Minot Public Schools, I think we need to decide if we're going to continue approving those or not, or if we're going to follow the same policy that we have really been adhering to this year.
Yeah. I was looking at the wrong one, sorry.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, that was first in the scan. Yeah.
Well, if they're going to school, for whatever support they have for, the reasons they've listed here, I don't want to miss it.
Does it say that's why they're going to that school?
Yeah, you know,
It says they're,
so they've got a student have a disability and then the specific ones they're doing.
yeah, but that's not that's not necessarily the reason they're going to school there. That's just asking the question. Because those are medical
Just asking.
issues that we have with other students in our current district.
Sure.
Did they just move into our school district? Sorry?
You've never gone to school here.
Okay.
It's a family application.
So I'm not necessarily in favor or against, I just think we need to make a decision on how we're going to handle this one along with every other one that's going to be coming up.
I think to reverse course for this family would probably, or for any family who've already said yes to, would be wrong. I don't think we should do that to families if they've already established themselves in the schools that they're at. I think going forward, any new requests we have, we need to apply our more stringent standard to of, you know, they have to have a reason other than they just want to. But I think since we've already approved this, it would probably be the right thing to just let them continue where they're at.
I agree with that, I really think that I don't know, I don't wanna hurt the students, I think it might be difficult to put that on somebody,
Yeah.
if we've always approved it before, but,
I don't think there's anything incongruent with having this policy of allowing kids that we've allowed in the past to go and then applying the new standard to new ones. I think that's an appropriate stance, especially when we're taking into account the needs of the students here. Personally.
any other discussion?
I guess I don't really have any discussion, I just wanna say that I agree with, Dan Miller when he talks about, you know, not disrupting, the students from what their comfort zone is and where they've already established themselves. But going forward, I do also think that we really need to try and keep our students here if they're in this school district. And it's coming to us for the first time, which I think is following the policy that we created.
It's been approved.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion then? Hearing none, then is there a motion to approve or deny, or approve 112 out?
I'll move to approve 112 out.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
John,
Yes?
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta,
Yes.
Wald,
Yes.
and the next one is number 113 out.
Now it's an open enrollment, we don't really have any room for, I mean, we discuss all we want, but,
It's for next year.
so it is what it is. We just need to approve it. Yeah. Is there a motion to to approve 113 out? Open enrollment.
I'll move to approve, 113 out.
I'll second.
Johns,
Yes?
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta,
Yes.
Wald.
Yes.
The only other thing I'm gonna have, say quickly is that, we do have one person on the board that is up for reelection, that would be, Sarah.
Oh,
Because she was appointed to fill a position,
I didn't realize that.
yeah.
Okay.
So she would be up, I did send her the information, statement of interest, and encourage her to apply again. And our election will be June 14th at City Hall, and unfortunately, we won't be having a citywide election there because Ward County's decided to have it in Kenmare or Minot. So whoever in Ward County wants to vote, that's where they have to go. I have no idea what the reason is behind that. I guess it was in the paper. So we will have our school board election there, but it really works best when it's a city-wide election, because then we both win, you know, right? Sure. So. I plan to make up a flyer or some sort of poster to have Sean put on the website and to post around the school and at the post office and stuff, giving the dates when things are due.
Oh, that's great. When is, so do you remember offhand when the application is due? Or the letter of intent or?
No, I just sent the first notice to the newspaper, that was due by like March 12th or 13th.
I believe if it's in, is it in conjunction with the regular election?
Correct,
Okay, then it would be April 11th by 4 p.m.
that's correct, I have calendar on that now, but.
So, April 11th at 4 p.m.
If anybody's interested in learning, that's when their statement of interest started.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know that. I didn't realize that this was on here.
Me too.
Anything else then? No? All right. Now your time. Mrs. Hanson?
Couple things, you have in front of you, a resignation letter from Ms. Harding, our sixth grade teacher. Sorry to see her go, but her family, they have the opportunity to move to Fargo and are going to take it, so she'll be leaving us at the end of the year.
I mean, I got it.
Got an email.
I got the email, but I don't think we have it in front of us. That's okay. I got it. I read it. And I'm sad about it. I think she did a great job. So I'm very sad to see her go. Here it is right here. Is good? So, is there a motion to accept Ms. Harding's resignation letter?
So if you don't, she has to stay.
Sounds good.
I'll move to accept the resignation.
I'll second it.
Johns,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta,
Yes.
Wald.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, actually, I have three. The other thing you have in front of you, we have offered a contract for social studies, and Colin accepted it the other day, so we have a contract in front, or not contract, application in front of you for Connor Mill as our, to replace Mr. Aspey.
Yeah, right there was mine, for sure. Where is Wishick?
Which is south of Napoleon.
Where's the folder?
All right.
Just about South Dakota.
Oh, okay. So this is a move for him. Okay, well, he looks very qualified. So honored to have such qualified applicants. Is there a motion to accept, what are we accepting, the offer that we've already offered him? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
So So is there a motion to accept the contract that we're going to offer him?
Yes. I'll motion to accept the contract.
I'll second it. Sarah.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Sarah.
Johns,
Yes?
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta,
Yes.
Wall,
Yes.
One more thing, we've been kind of looking, well, not kind of looking, really starting to look at next year and some of the things we want to do. And one thing we've been looking at is our math position. Right now, we have one full-time, we have one that does part-time, and then we have an additional teacher in another department that teaches a couple of math classes. So we would like to transition that to another full-time math teacher. So we would have 2 full-time math teachers teaching.
Personally, I love that idea. If we look at our state testing scores compared to the rest of the state, it's an area we're lacking. So I think we have data to prove that we need to increase our staff there, maybe our time with the students. So,
Okay, well, does that need a motion? Because if it does, then I'll make a motion to approve, going with 2, full-time teachers.
I guess we're looking for probably, I don't know if you worded the option for us to be able to hire.
what would the other option be? Not hiring?
No, I think that the other option would be working with our part-time, see if we can up her time to make it work, but we would like the option of a full-time. In the future, we're gonna have to, we are growing, we're getting more students, so in the future, we'll need a full-time math. However, we'd just like the option to look into that, be able to hire a full-time math.
So, I agree, I think we need 2 full-time people, 2 full-time positions, so if that means hiring, if you're talking about the option of 1 full-time, which you currently have, and then 2 part-time, and you want us to have the flexibility to approve that, then that's, I would be okay with that. If you're asking for the flexibility to continue on with 1 full-time and 1 part-time, I would prefer not to approve that.
Right,
That's what we're already doing.
We're looking at hiring a full-time math position instead of a part-time. If the option's out there, that's what we'd like to do.
Okay. So that, I just wanna be sure we say it right, so you guys get what you want and we understand what we're.
Yes, so we are looking for a full-time math position.
So you made the motion?
My motion stands.
What was it?
What?
What was it, to hire a full-time?
Yes, to have the,
No option.
to give the school the ability or option to, hire another full-time, or to have 2 full-time math teachers.
I'll second.
Johns,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta,
Yes.
Wall,
Yes. Is that under new business? Can we put it under new business? All right. Okay, well, and then Ms. Ganser just brought to my attention that we need to add something to the new business, which is the speech and language pathologist contract for.
It's on there.
It's on there.
It's on there, sorry. It's on number 5.
Oh, yeah, okay, there it is, okay, perfect. got something now? Okay. Unfinished business, starting with that school vision committee.
Yes, we met last Friday, and right off the bat, Mr. Gardner, who's one of our committee members, he had he just basically had a question about the purpose for the committee, so we answered it with, we're all new to this, we're all just finding our way, but what we established with him was that we're looking to form the current short-term and long-term need list to give to Mr. Girding for during budget time. I went over the next bullet point during the bus discussion, I think, but just another highlight is during that vision committee, Mr. Girding stated that, and I can't remember the exact number, but 85 to 90% of the money that the school receives from property taxes and state funding goes to wages, leaving only, like 10%, a little over 10% for everything else. So it's not an easy task to budget for these high, it's a large task. So, and after reading the cultural improvement survey, I have some concerns, but I think we're all just playing catch up now, and we're gonna try to get everything back on course. As far as the bus goes, I am very happy and appreciative that was approved tonight. There's also, I think the employees are using their own vehicles here quite often. Mr. Girding, is that correct?
Yeah, we use our vehicle.
So that's another thing that we'd like to look into in the near future, is just that city vehicle. I think they would be happy with even a minivan at this point. Is that right?
Yes, we'd like another minivan in the future.
And then I just put down, so we separated into two different groups. There's the school building needs, and then there's the curriculum needs. The building needs was that you can scratch 14 passenger because that had changed. And that was just done, so yay. And then school vehicle, west side elementary windows, concession, exterior door, main entrance door, and kitchen windows. Another thing that we did want to, I was wondering if we ever got a bid on the carpet or how we wanted to pursue that, but we're still working on all of that. The curriculum group, Mrs. Hanson and one other member was unavailable to attend, but the three committee members that were there came up with some very good ideas, actually. The one was sharing curriculum with other schools. I don't know if that would be an option or something to look into. And then just, I don't know which teacher had it, but one of the teachers had a very good idea about STAR testing, just possibly to entice the students to try their very best instead of possibly rushing through it, so we can get like more accurate test scores and know exactly where we are. So I was very thankful for that. And then just a couple other things, and Chuck didn't talk about it, but we did talk about there's an option for possible propane buses, which I had never heard of, but, and then of course, Chuck he's doing a lot of the maintenance himself, so that is huge. And then, Mr. Girding wanted to thank all of the teachers and staff who have filled in this year. They've ran short constantly from, November till now. So he said everybody's just coming in, and he's very appreciative. And then I wanted to thank everybody who volunteered to be on that vision committee. Like I said, we were kind of tossed into it, not knowing exactly what to do or expect, but I think it's going very well, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
I did all of that. Thank you, Mr. Girding, and thank you to the vision.
Is there any discussion on some of the bigger items, like a new gym, new flooring,
Yes, okay.
parking lot?
So I just put on this little summary thing. I just put the very short-term goals, or like the needs, immediate school needs. But like 1 to 2 years, student parking, NPR floor, and then 3 to 5 years, 10 to 15 classrooms, a gym, replace the carpet in classrooms A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 5 to 10 years, more route buses again, activity buses, possibly a new skid steer. So I mean, Mr. Gurney is doing a fantastic job itemizing what he thinks he will need in the future. And of course, just school expansion in general, and land use we talked about.
Okay. Then, you brought the flooring and the carpet. We did vote to get bids on that. I assume that you had said it wasn't in this year's budget, so I think you were talking about putting in next year's budget, right?
I do have the bids, I'm just waiting. I looked at the agenda and I'm like, no, we're not gonna touch it this time. So I'll bring it up in April, yeah. We do have the bids.
Okay. Thank you very much for putting this together. I know there's a lot of needs and it's hard to prioritize. It's very little money. It's hard to figure out where to put it. It's the most effective, so thank you for working on that.
Oh, I think I missed one of the biggest points. Right at the beginning of the meeting, Mr. Girding said that last year he got the whole budget put together and then found out that he had to shave $175,000 off per the revenue estimates. So, I mean, it's not an easy task to do at all. So I just appreciate everything that he does.
How about that curriculum? I know I asked about this, about trying to implement some kind of advanced classes too. How are you going with that, or is that going to be part of plans for next year?
I did visit a little bit with a couple of other schools, just kind of get some ideas, and that's honestly about as far as I've gotten on it for right now, but
Okay.
yeah.
You're working on it? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, we can move to the Culture Improvement Committee, the survey results. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We met twice last month just to digest the results themselves and then to author that report we ended up sending out to everybody. First off, we had what I think was fantastic involvement from the staff. 39 total people participated, gave their input. We had people show up to the committee meeting and chat with us. I think we all ended up getting kind of off the record comments from people and ideas, so it was really kind of nice to see that kind of involvement. Kind of want to stress that this is the beginning of an effort, not really the end of it, so this isn't, we're not one and done. We're going to go forward and talk to the students too at some point, talk to the community, get inputs and stuff. But this was really kind of our way to get a basis of where to start with the staff and just how to start really kind of making efforts to grow our community in a positive way. To that end, we had some immediate recommendations that we feel are pretty easy to achieve without a lot of cost, or any cost really. The big one was kind of returning to a two-principal system. We've already approved that, so the good news is we're not going to ask for any more money right at this time. A lot of the comments we got ended up boiling down to miscommunications or lack of communications or misunderstanding things that have been said. I'll take, for instance, the bus we just approved tonight. There's some misunderstanding of where the funds come from, and that it's a singular account, and that everything is paid out of one account, and that you can't possibly pay everything out of one account. So we think that if we just kind of increase our communication and explanation as to how things happen, even as we go as a board, I think it would be a good idea, just so people understand that, if we don't spend this money, we can otherwise distribute it out to everybody, and I don't think that people understand you can't do that. So our first one really is to create, display, and continually reference and follow an organizational chart or chain of command. We think this is going to help with communications because it really puts the communication emphasis on direct supervisors, and it promotes feedback, and feedback is crucial. So if somebody comes to a supervisor at any level with a question, I think it's appropriate to assume, or to expect resolution to. So we included that as a suggestion, and really kind of put that in as kind of an overarching ethos that's just constantly referenced. So if somebody brings something direct to the superintendent, the first question should be, have you addressed it with one of the principals? And down the line, so somebody brings something to the principal, have you addressed it with that person if there's a personality conflict, or if it's just too acrimonious, then of course elevate it to wherever you need to. But we also feel like that'll be a really good way to kind of develop that communication structure, not just the hierarchy, but just the ethos, for lack of a better term, of talking to people and recognizing people. So, the second one, really with staff concerns and some of student behavior, I think we run into some issues. So we kind of talked about creating a discipline matrix, something that can be pointed to and said, if this, then that. If you're doing this, this is what's going to happen. It kind of takes the guesswork out of it, and it's immediate. You did this, so you're getting that. There's room for discretion there. Obviously, if there's individual cases that need to be modified, but I think it's important to show not only the teachers, you'll be backed up, the students, this is the expectation, but also the parents that this is what you should expect to happen with that issue. So we kind of put it as a goal to have that in place before the start of next year, but I know we're going to do a little bit more looking around, and Mr. Berry is researching some stuff with that regard as well. This one is really easy. Increased board visibility and availability. Some of the comments and perceptions is we're just either not approachable or they don't know who we are. And to that end, we've recommended creating bios to put onto the website so you can at least get a small background. I've drafted one and sent it to Mr. Gorthy as kind of an example of what I was thinking, just who we are. And that lets not only the community know who we are, but also the teachers and staff as well. A really interesting idea that really got some traction in the committee was forming some diverse staff groups and then assigning one of us to them. And we'll meet with them on kind of an informal ad hoc basis, but routinely, and maybe change it up. We'll switch who's assigned to where, but they can talk to us, and it's not really an avenue direct to air any kind of complaint, although we want to hear that, but just give us an idea of what's going on in the school, what are the concerns happening, because there's a feeling that we're kind of disconnected from what's going on. But what we want to do is avoid walking around as a board member, disrupting the class, and we don't want to do that. I want to make very clear that we're not going to become hall monitors or something like that. That's not our goal. We're not supervising anybody, anything like that. That's not our role. Developing or following a complaint process, and then there's just a culture of emotionally intelligent conflict resolution. And that really is going to take some just effort talking about it and just saying, professional, respectful conversations can take place and reasonable people can disagree. And if it's a point of contention, then you can bring that up. But really want to focus on this at staff meetings, in services, that kind of stuff, just to get that thought process down. Update our staff handbooks and job descriptions. I think the last one was like 2014. That just needs to happen anyway, so that everybody understands what everybody else does, and our policies are updated, that kind of stuff. This one, support, participate in a PTA or PTO or even boosters, since they're already established, but some organizations get involved as staff members, as board members, as parents, and really kind of try to build this kind of esprit de corps in the school where we're attending games and we're watching things happen, we're cheering on students, we're going out of town if we can, just spending our time building that kind of community. And number 7 here is really where rubber meets the road as far as how do we support staff. And I think it is important that a strategic goal of the board, after we figure out what our needs are through the vision committee and in coordination with the superintendent and administration, what our school's needs are is to support asking for the community to fund those. We don't have any room in our levies to gain any more, so it might be bond initiatives to do something, but I don't know what that looks like. I'm speaking a little out of turn because I'm not real familiar with all those processes. I think we need to make that a goal of the board, is to just fund our increase in staff salaries and to fund the needs of our school and ask the community to do it, and then go back to them if we need to. But I think we have to have specificity when we do that. We can't just say we want more money. We have to say we want more money for these things, and this is how much it's going to cost. And that's it, really. Just want to thank the Cultural Improvement Committee. You're not off the hook. We're not done. So I'll see a couple out here. So we're still going to move forward on this. This is just kind of giving us a starting point of where we're going to go from here.
That's a lot, and John.
There's a lot.
Thank you.
Kristen.
So, I think you did a fantastic job on it. I just went through and maybe you can answer this, but I love reports. I think you guys did such a great job, but I hate leaving things like this. I always like to have things assigned. So like, my question for every single one was who was doing it and when is the timeline? Like, what's the date on that?
Okay, well, so number one, Appendix B is the suggestion. If y'all have any modifications you want to add to that, or you think something's not working. So that's just a chain of command.
Yeah, I thought that was great. Can we ask for someone at the administration level to divvy up those staff that, because it just has school principals, I think you probably just weren't able to say which principal would be responsible.
Well,
We
the
want to find-
elementary school would be responsible for the elementary certified. And,
So, special education would be,
I imagine that would, you know what, I don't know.
yeah, athletic director.
So
You understand what I'm saying?
I imagine the athletic director would report to the high school principal.
And then the paraprofessionals would,
So the paraprofessionals for the education academics standpoint technically fall under the special education teacher. They are assigned additional duties, kind of monitoring other things, and that's kind of divvied out by the principal. That has nothing to do with special education. So as far as the curriculum and helping the students directly, academically, that would be, they would report to the special education teacher. And the principals would still be able to tell them, hey, can you go do this or that?
sure. So I guess, yeah, I just would like someone to divvy it out, so there's no.
Sure. That's
no,
an easy fix, yeah.
Yeah.
So number two, so number one, everybody's responsible for that one, and it's really just kind of building a culture of expecting if there's a conflict that you take it to that person first, really trying to solve it at the lowest level possible, not coming direct to us, because it really, again, it should be, we're gonna just pass it on down the line, because we can't do
This is
anything.
number
No, this is number one.
Oh, sorry, yeah, okay.
And the reason it's number one is I think a lot of issues can be solved if people follow this and expect that there will be feedback and follow-up. So what is the resolution to the issue I brought to you? And it's just building that framework inside the school. Not that it doesn't already exist, I think we can just, like anything, do better. The discipline matrix, that's gonna be on Mr. Girding to kind of create, although I found some fantastic resources there. There's some Colorado State Education site that has exactly this thing. Didn't even know they existed before, so I'm not as novel as I thought I was, innovative. So this isn't new. Apparently this thing exists somewhere out there in the ether, so we can find examples out there pretty easily. The board visibility is going to be on us, and that's just being accessible to the staff. I really just want to make sure, because there's some confusion among some staff that think that we are able to direct anything personally. And we need to clear that up, that we're not directive. We can't just go and tell people, any staff to do anything. It has to be a board motion for anything to happen. So I think we just got to clarify that as we interact and be accessible to folks in listen to concerns, or even taking the time to appreciate people and tell them how much we do appreciate them. And I don't know, maybe donate one of your meeting payments to the fund that will get like a teacher of the semester. I don't know, something, but we gotta do better, I think, ourselves, interacting and being available and recognizing the staff.
So, are we going to have a goal then as a board that we divide into so many groups starting in the 2022-2023 school year?
I think we should.
And so that would say maybe under unfinished business until we've actually done that. I want to keep this in the forefront. I want to accomplish these. I don't want it to just be a report that.
Oh, I'm not gonna let it be a report. I'm gonna bother you off. You're not gonna get sick of hearing from me. So yeah, absolutely. I think we should. That's really the reason we're bringing it up now, is just so if there is any discussion, and I know you might need to chew on it a little bit more, but I think we can support all this. I think the only contentious one might be to ask for more money on the percent of the committee, and me personally, I think that's something we have to do. We have a growing community, and eventually our funds will catch up, but right now we're in that really awkward stage of, we got a lot of kids here, we're outgrowing the school, but we don't have enough to do anything about it. So it's just kind of weird. So yeah, I think that could be an unfinished business, just working with the staff to create these groups of people, and then kind of just assigning one of us to each of them, or two of us to each of them, something. Don't want to put three of us in there because we don't want to start having meetings and stuff. So,
What about the biographies? When do you want those, and who do they go to?
So those should be sent to Mr. Gorthy. I was going to talk to him after today, this meeting, just to figure out how it's going to go on the website. I'm sometimes a little verbose, and of course everybody's favorite topic is themselves, so mine might be too long. So we'll just discuss that, and hopefully have a kind of a template to share if you want, or you can do whatever you want here. It's your vibe. So to answer your question, to your point, hopefully I'll send out an email here in the next couple of days, kind of just explain it a little bit, or maybe Mr. Worthy will, as an example.
Okay.
The complaint process, and number 4 is going to be everybody. The complaint process itself, I think, is going to have to be a collaboration between the administration and the board eventually, because I'd like to see some kind of accountability where any kind of complaint is tracked, feedback is documented, and resolutions are explained. And that can be
I feel like we have this. I feel like this was something that came as a, what's going on with us?
Is it called like the STOP program, or?
Well, that was
so
the
I think
bullying.
that's, yeah, the bullying stuff.
But I thought we had a complaint process that was a result of the last time we did a survey.
We do have it on the website right now.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, well, I guess then there's
Is it not working?
well, I don't know the feedback portion of this communications is happening as effectively as it can. So we need to have some way of tracking, issue number 001 is, this was the resolution. Or if you don't want to put that specificity out there, you can say, contacted this person with the resolution. There shouldn't be any kind of lack of understanding of what happened. And I think the perception is that sometimes concerns are brought up and then it's either dropped or they don't know what happened or that kind of stuff. That's not to say it is. I mean, this is a snapshot in time. It's perceptions about what's going on. So you don't want to make any allegation there as far as that goes, but I think we could probably just do better in that feedback loop there. And the recurring training, I have no idea what that's going to look like. But I think everybody needs to be on the same page as far as just emotionally intelligent, understanding sometimes people have bad days, sometimes people make mistakes, whatever. But we build a resilient, strong team that we're collaborative, we're working together on everything. And then if there's a problem, there's an expectation and understanding that it's okay if I go to the next level and have them help mediate it. That's not a bad thing. So we kind of start dealing with things in this micro atmosphere instead of bringing it out to a macro level or letting it foment kind of unhappiness. So I don't know how to tell you who's going to do that. Ultimately, it's going to be everybody that has to participate in that, as far as any kind of training and talking about it. It might just be, 5 minutes at the beginning of every staff meeting, we talk about it.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, we just talk about it and just get it on everybody's forefront. The staff handbooks and job descriptions, that's probably gonna be, added into Mr. Drury. And I know we're working on that, and I know we have 4 million policies. And so that's being worked on as we speak anyway. It's just getting it done. The PTA, I'm not real familiar with PTAs or what that looks like, and we already have a really active booster club. I would just like to maybe, I don't want to say, we just want to build a community and build just that esprit de corps within the school itself, and engage teachers, have teachers showing up to games and rooting the kids on, that kind of stuff. And then parents doing the same thing. And I know when I got here 7 years ago, we had, your reading with dad, events, that kind of stuff, and COVID put a damper on a lot of that. But I think we can start bringing this back and really try to build a community within the school. And I think that would go a long way to just making everybody feel more cohesive together. And there's some disconnect. The elementary section of school feels disconnected from the high school and vice versa. We just kind of bring those two together so we feel like a school and not, separate hallways and bifurcated. So that one's more of like that's not a specific, this person's gonna do it, and the board can't create, that's gonna be an outside entity like the boosters. I just think we need to be more, myself included, I haven't done anything with boosters, and that's bad on me. I should really get involved in it and see what they're doing and support them and go out and do things. And I think we can do a better job as a board doing it. Or maybe I'm just the one, maybe y'all are all there and I'm the only one missing, so we'll do better with it. And that number 7 is just, we're gonna really have to build in some specificity to what our needs are, and then decide how we're going to fund it and figure that out. And that's gonna be on everybody. Some of that's gonna fall heavily on Mr. Girding, just as he works the budget. But I'm hoping to get a little smarter on this process too, to figure out how we can just do better paying our people. Just with inflation, it's gonna cost me $400 to fill up my truck now. So I can, teachers are feeling the same, staff is feeling the same pinch there. So it's just that we can't really assign that one. I just think as a board, we really need to work hard to get our needs documented and then ask for funding from the voters.
Thank you. I know we just go through it twice. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I feel better with names attached to things. People know who's responsible.
And then they're held accountable too.
Yeah, the people are accountable. Yeah. And you guys are gonna continue to meet?
We are, yeah. We're actually going to meet, I think, on the 17th as well, so just next week.
Great. Thank you to everyone that's participating on both committees. Anything more?
No, thank you.
Did you guys have any comments about that? Especially because we just assigned you things. You okay with those?
Well, the discipline matrix would be both the elementary principal and the high school principal and myself. It wouldn't be, because there's, and the teachers, I think that there should be teacher input as well, because they're gonna be implementing that. I don't deal with discipline too much in my office, but.
And nor should
so,
you.
right. And also, I'd like to let you know, I did talk to both the elementary teachers and the high school teachers about budget and where a lot of stuff goes. So I did take time to meet with both groups.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
All right. Next thing at our unfinished business was the emergency procedures and lockdown drills.
That was to approve the verbiage, on second reading, that a drill needs to be completed twice during an academic year, with one being in the first quarter. And that information should be communicated to the parents that a lockdown drill was done at school.
I can't find the policy I know, like, so it's state law, we have to have one. No, I don't think we have an actual policy, so we have to have one. So would this be like a brand new policy? Because I couldn't even find where we would amend it.
Yeah, that would be it.
This is just a brand new policy. Did everyone hear what the reading was? Is there a motion to accept the second reading?
There is indeed a motion to, can we approve it on the second reading? Or do we have to come back?
No, we already approved it at last meeting on first.
Oh, we just, yeah, well, let's do that.
Is there a second?
Second?
Johns,
Yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Vanetta,
Yes.
Wald,
Yes. And then, would you mind sending that, like, the verbiage out? I'll try and upload it into our Teams file. So then, I'm trying to get that updated. I've put all the meeting minutes that have been approved in there, along with, like, your survey, results, and several other things that just aren't changing. So, thank you. Okay, next we have negotiation.
Okay, I sent everybody, copy of the, a copy of what we received from the, SEA. And that's the thing that has to be put to this right here. Recognizing the Surrey Education Association negotiating team, 3 staff members.
So, I just wanna make sure I get my verbiage right, and I wasn't allowed to print out that thing they sent, because, so did you type it, what I have to say? To recognize it?
Yes, I have. Well, I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know if this went with one of those and this went with the other. And honestly, I wasn't really comfortable posting this in a public place because I don't know how they vote. I don't know if it's, she doesn't know what he did or he doesn't know what she, I didn't know. So I have not posted either one of these, but yes, I have them both, typed up for you.
Okay.
So this is the one that would come from the negotiating team, and then this is the one that would be from the board.
Okay, this was just what should have been posted, saying that we were going to consider it tonight. And this one was their letter to us that we should have put up along with this one.
The only letter that we have from the team is this letter.
Yep,
It's
and
this
that-
statement.
That statement and this should have been put up. Saying that we were talking about it tonight. I mean, and all we're doing is approving their representatives. Okay.
I'll be honest, we have done I've done negotiations a few times here, not every single time, and I don't know that Mr. Reardon was ever involved in negotiations, but we've never done any of this kind of stuff, so it's all new to us.
Sure, and as
So
well
we're
to me.
figuring
so-
it out as we go.
Right. Okay, so I want what we need is a motion to, make sure I read it right. To recognize the 3, I don't have the verbiage, so gonna recognize the 3 representatives from the Surrey Educational Association that was approved. The Surrey Educational Association was approved as a negotiating, body at the last meeting. So approve their 3 representatives, which we were sent, and they are. That's right here. Thank you. Kelsey Vetter, Mike Holtz, and Courtney Traeger.
So we just need a motion to recognize them?
Right, recognize them as the representatives.
I'll move to recognize them, Traeger, Vetter, and Holtz as our representatives.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Negotiations then are required to start within 30 days. If we approve that. Great, from the February 28th date that they
So
filed.
the next step in the process is for them to bring something to us stating what their wishes are or the direction that they're going.
Well, right. Or generally, that's what we do, right? But we just require to have a meeting with them in the next 30 days, talking about the process and where they're at, where we're at. But generally, yeah, they can say what they want.
We're just trying to get it to them.
Right, right. So, is there a motion and a second? I interrupted you, I'm sorry.
Johns,
Yes?
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Banetta,
Yes.
Wall.
Yes. Okay, I think that's it for unfinished business. And we have taken care of a couple of the new business, so, next on the new business then is superintendent evaluation. I did send that out. I have talked to Mr. Girding about that. Is there any comments, concerns, changes anyone wants to discuss on there?
No, I just appreciate everything Mr. Gearing does. I know there's some, like some of the stuff on the superintendent evaluation is, more speaks to something that the business manager does. So I don't know. Like putting together like the packets for the board meeting, I think that falls on the business manager unless I'm mistaken. So I think we might need to look at what it is we're evaluating, just in the future, I think would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, I suppose we can, manipulate this however it meets our district, but I would wanna check with the school board association, because this is a school board association form.
Yeah, and I think like everything with them, it's kind of like their standard, this is what it would be. But yeah, I think we can make it whatever we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That being said, can I just ask what the board's, what the board wants as far as getting the packet information? Because I have the same thing on my evaluation as well, so, I realize getting them on Wednesday morning is not the best situation. But this month I sent them out on Monday, I'm working on Sunday, so I could get it done on Monday. So I don't know, what are the board's wishes, or?
Well, as nothing gets clear, we didn't necessarily, say that he needed to improve that. I really don't remember what the comments were there. It's just that that's a line item that we were asked to evaluate on his. Personally, I appreciate getting them Monday, but it would be much better to get them Friday, if not earlier. I know that's asking a lot, because I know you've already worked really hard to get us that information in that quick turnaround. I do understand closing out the month process, and that's a difficult thing to do, especially on your own. But it's also a lot of information to decipher, and so if you're working a full-time job and you have kids and activities, then all of a sudden, you've lost 2 days. If you have anything going on, then it's very easy to come in here unprepared. So I think.
So in March, I don't get the bank statements until at least the 2nd of each month, depending on when the last day of the month is. So there would be no way that I could balance 3 bank statements and enter, 8 pages of bills by Friday. I mean, it's just not feasible. I mean, I could if I worked all day Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, well, no, I don't think anyone's asking that, but.
Can we, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Moving this to the third Wednesday? I mean, it just creates another week of space there, so we can get them that Friday, have the, almost a week to look at.
Probably be paying the bills in a timely manner, I would think.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But you enter the bills throughout the month, don't you? You don't wait till the
No, I do
last
not
day.
get every month, because we don't get, I mean, I like to balance the bills to the statements if there is a statement there, and we might not have all of those invoices. Sometimes even when I'm entering the bills, I'm still getting statements in the mail and entering invoices, because anything that's dated in February, I wanna pay it in March.
Right.
So, I mean, and I try to get in as much as I can so that we are staying accountable for the bills that we have and paying things on time. I don't like to pay it in.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
Honestly, there really is no easy solution to it.
Can you look at the statements online?
Some they can, but not all. But I don't pay from the statement. I only balance the invoices to the statement. I have to have an invoice, and Mr. Green knows I won't pay anything without an invoice.
It is common practice to enter the invoices as you go though, and then I know you're already full, I know that, so I was saying you'd enter them through the month, when would you really do that, you know? But it is common practice to do that and then to balance the statement once you receive it, so you wouldn't be much to do at the end.
It would be
Anyway,
easy if we were a glass company, we only had 4 vendors that we bought stuff from, but it's not that way. I don't get the lunch, even the lunch invoices until the very end of the month. So,
Is it just the bank statement, I mean, the bank reconciliation that is causing the problem?
well, it takes a lot of time, and I don't
No,
get
I
it,
mean-
in my opinion, I don't get it in a timely manner, and this has been my issue with Perry and at First International. So like the last day of February, the 28th was on a Monday. And, you know, I didn't get statements until Wednesday. They weren't even available on first.
The only reason I ask is because if we just move that one aspect, that 1 month, so like February is gonna be due until technically April.
right, that's the other thing I was thinking about too, if just the bank reconciliations are a month behind. Right.
I have everything.
Well, we're just trying to come up with
I know.
solutions that would be, you know, good for everyone. I think that's something we should, you know, keep maybe to discuss at a future meeting. I feel like we're kind of got off topic. No, that's all right. So, superintendent evaluation though. We can definitely look, I will make a note to check with the school board association, I actually think we have to use that form, but I will check. So, it seems crazy, but I actually do think that we do have to, I'll check with
There's
them.
nothing in the Century Code that says we have to use anything that they do, because I mean, we're our own entity, we just.
Really, it's
right. Right, I know what you're saying, but I think I asked about this, but I'll check with them.
No, not every superintendent, every school does the same thing, though. I would say every school.
Okay, I'll check. Any other comments?
I just want to thank Mr. Girding for another great school year. We appreciate you.
I echo that. We see you all over the place, from concessions and the junior high game.
To taking my parking spot at the college.
You have to be faster.
To the kitchen, and of course, you know, applying for all kinds of grants and making sure that we stay within the budget. So, very appreciative of all you do. Okay, is there a motion to accept superintendent evaluation?
I'll move to accept.
A second?
Second,
Johns,
yes.
Munoz,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Wall,
Yes.
oh, I'm sorry, Renetta?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to be too.
Okay, then we have that board self-evaluation. It was actually really good timing, that you had the survey results. Because I had just been looking at that self-evaluation. We are required to do one every year, although I don't think we have been. So it's really just a self-evaluation and evaluating us as a board as a whole. This one is for sure available to be adjusted because it says it right on the template. So I put my thoughts on there. I haven't heard from anybody. What is anybody else's thoughts or about that?
I'll be honest, I haven't looked at it.
I
I
haven't either.
flipped through it and it was 400 pages, and that's why I stopped.
Yeah. Okay, so can we table that then? I would,
think
before
we
we
should.
evaluate ourselves, we should make sure that we're comfortable with the criteria that we're evaluating.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. All right. We have already dealt with the number 4, so then the last thing is the speech contract. I'll look at this and pass it along, because I don't think anyone else has received this, have they?
No.
Okay.
It's just saying that we would get services from Service Valley for speech pathology and language pathologies, there's general.
It's the same one we always have.
Correct. And then they decide that dollar amount, basically.
Yeah, we will get that later.
Later, right?
Once they start the budget process.
Well, I really appreciate her. She's amazing for our school. I'm so appreciative to have her, so. Is there a motion to accept the speech contract for
I think they're still reviewing.
next year?
I'll motion to approve it. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Who wants it?
Was it?
Daniel does.
Daniel? Motion by Mr. Tyler.
That's all
I'll second.
Johns?
Yes.
Munoz?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Vanetta? Yes. Wall?
Yes. You made it.
Oh, it is.
Next board meeting is April 13th at 5 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
Yes.
motion.
A second?
Oh, second, good. Put us all in.